since I'm primarily listing agent for many years and with my background in construction and the fact that we're full service, meaning that we come in and we help clients do everything from start to finish when they're ready to sell their home. We come in and suggest repairs, the inspections, we prepare them and stage them. Then we do a full job marketing and selling them. And so, often some of my colleagues or newer agents that I mentor will ask for guidance or tips on, what do you recommend to sellers when you walk their property? If you have a potential listing, you're meeting with your clients, what are like advisable repairs or things you should look out for? And also, a lot of sellers don't want to put money into the property. Like, we're leaving, we don't want to spend money. What I have to say is this. Clearly, I have a bit of an advantage being in construction when it comes to like major repairs or noticing things that are, out of whack. And I get that at times, and more often than not, when you're meeting with a seller who's going to sell their home and move, they're like, we don't really want to spend money on a home that we're leaving. We'd rather save the money for our new home, which makes sense. And so how do you approach or how do you deal with this? Well, for me, I always look at it from an investment perspective. I've, flipped homes and, been helping our clients pretty much get a return on investment for many years. What I look out for is, or honestly, I think that for spending money to get more money, that obviously makes sense if that's an option for the client. But the other thing I'm going to say that it's not so much an investment is, for me, it's always important to take care of like health and safety things. I think when you're going to sell the house, it's really the right thing to do to be able to transfer the home in safe condition. I mean, if there's like, find some leaking, drainage line, or, some broken glass, or I don't know, I mean, just random things. Maybe there's an open like junction box. Maybe there's some kind of carbon monoxide leak in an old furnace, or, I like to guide my client into at least making the home safe for sale. Yeah, unless it's a complete as is investor buy that they're going to completely gut. But for, an average home to a nice home, we want to make sure all the health and safety stuff is done. After that, then everything else is purely presentation and return on investment. So if I'm going to stage a home, which we stage about 90% of our listings, we want it to be at a certain point or certain level of condition in order to make sense to like dress it up and make it a model home, for lack of a better term. So what I suggest is paint, which is known widely as, the best return on investment. At times, something like 30 to 1, $30 for every dollar you spend on paint. You always hear people talk about paint and curb appeal. I would really highly recommend always, especially in the exterior, at least pressure wash or make it as presentable as possible. And if it makes sense to paint the exterior, even if it's just a facade, front landscape, super important to at least clean up what's there. It's nice when there is mature landscape. When there's not, we try to make do and try to just put in our touches or fill in. There's also, there's been a conversation about sod lawn for years. With the drought years, people let their lawn die. People wanted to do drought tolerant plants and stuff. But it's not really feasible to spend the money on doing drought tolerant plants or things of that nature. It's actually cheaper to lay down new sod. Even if the new owners are going to let it die or get rid of it, it's cheaper, more cost effective, and looks amazing for photos and for marketing. So I think for curb appeal, if you have a property with a lawn that's gone bad or they've let it die, or you just have a lot of barren front yard, nobody likes to see a bunch of bark. Plants are very expensive. Buying large plants is hard to do. I mean, what used to be like a massive 5-gallon plant is like a little gallon plant now at 5 gallons. And so if you go and try to buy like a 20-gallon or 25-gallon plant, you could be spending $300 or $400, right? And trees, if you want to go buy trees, you can spend thousands of dollars. You have to work with what you got. There's not always, a lot of options in certain situations, but worst case scenario, just make it really clean and presentable, trim what's there, at least pressure wash and clean things up, get the windows clean, make sure the screens aren't torn. Like I said, paint if it makes sense, and curb appeal. I mean, curb appeal, big. Interior paint is great. It's a good way to clean everything up. Highly recommend interior paint. Beyond paint, what do you do? If the house has flooring that's just tore up or in bad shape, it's ideal to get quotes to replace. A lot of people don't like carpet anymore. Sometimes it makes more sense just to replace carpet for the sake of cost. In that case, you have to make a decision based on how the home flows. If you choose to replace the carpet that's there, or should you change to what's been, very popular, which is like luxury vinyl? Luxury vinyl, for instance, is about $8 a square foot installed. People love that. People with allergies love that. In general, people just don't really like carpet anymore for the most part. And so when we do upgrade away from carpet, we typically try to install luxury vinyl. So flooring, paint, two big ones. Lighting, let's talk about lighting. A lot of these older homes have very inefficient lighting that's not very bright, uses a lot of electricity. Nowadays, everybody's going LED. LED doesn't draw very much power, really brightens things up tremendously. And that's, if you have recessed lighting, if it's light fixtures, for instance, you want to, if you have like a 90s, home and there's a bunch of these older light fixtures or brass or whatever, then you want to go get even like Home Depot, simple like ceiling mounted fixtures. Bathrooms, I mean, talk about bathrooms. So sometimes you have older tile, rip out tile and do all that is just too much money. It doesn't make sense. What we typically do is house the vanities, the vanity sink, how's the toilet, how's the flooring, is it an old tub, how's the surround? Depending on what it is, a lot of times a deep clean, maybe replace the vanity, maybe replace the toilet, maybe even the flooring, maybe leave the tub surround, but then choose a paint color that's going to kind of tie in and kind of lose the weird colored tile or what have you.